Hey, you guys. Welcome to Steele Wars. I am comedian Steele Saunders, and I do love Star Wars! And this is the first podcast recorded under the sea. So, thanks so much for being here at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. It's very exciting to be back in town. Now, when I was coming down the lane and stuff to get here, I was wondering, right, what do you guys think smell worse? The lavatory at the Mos Eisley Cantina or that lane? It's touch and go, do you know what I mean? They're the things we haven't brought up on the podcast as yet after about 3 years, is what does Hammerhead's piss smell like? I don't know. And don't even get me started about those jizz whalers in the Cantina band. That is an actual Star Wars reference. Trust me, Thelma. That is... It is, I promise. But we are here to talk Star Wars, and I'm in a bit of a chair-throwing mood, actually, so that's cool. That's cool. All right, let's put all that here. And what we're going to do is bring up two of my comedian friends, and we'll talk a bit of Star Wars. What do you guys reckon? All right, both these guys are hilarious comedians that are in the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, so I would like you to give a huge round of applause to Alice Fraser and Ben Russell!
Hello, Steele. I have the shiniest microphone in the world.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking... No, neither of you have one. This is great.
That actually...
You're the star.
I am.
That actually matches your festival poster perfectly.
It totally does, yes.
Yeah, you got to get that. Can I...
I will be stealing this after the show.
Wow, that is a rare glimmer of actual show business.
Yeah, that is show business.
I mean,
That's
this
what
is
it looks
great
like.
commentary for an audio medium, but...
Yeah. If I could just
Hey, I'm doing it for the
describe-
people here, all right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, give us a sound
It's a
landscape, Russell.
luminous, pearlescent silver.
Yeah, that's good.
Delicious to behold.
Now I want to eat it.
I have never had that word mentioned on a podcast, pearlescent. I can't even say that
You're
word.
welcome. I like to just come in and just throw some vocabs.
Is that your private school Perth upbringing getting flaunted there?
No, I just like to read.
I just read the works of Timothy Zahn and it ends
Oh,
there.
yeah. High five for Timothy Zahn. Extended universe.
Oh, dude, that was a good high five.
Oh, well done.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm cheered up after that. That is great. That is
Nothing
great.
cheers Steele up like a good high five.
Let's go for it, Ben.
Oh.
Turns
That
out,
was follow through.
turns out those glasses are safety goggles. Sorry
Yeah.
about the eye.
No, I loved every moment of it.
It's all about the elbow, you know. You got.
I've heard that, but I don't like to do it because I think, yes, it makes it good, but it takes a bit of the magic out, you know?
Yeah, you want to just hold a rigid arm and then fling your full body into it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
A bit
Where
of the
there
danger.
are stakes.
Yeah, that's right. Like it's great at sort of averaging your high five, but you don't get the dizzying heights and the gut-busting lows as you do as just going for it, you know? No? Just me?
All right.
Sorry.
Ben, it's surprising you're on this show because if you're a hardened listener to the Steele Wars podcast, listeners would know that you got banned
Yes.
from appearing on the podcast.
I am very excited to have that ban lifted.
For now.
For now, that's right. Fingers crossed, it could be reinstated. But yeah, it was a late night, and you know, I like to push the envelope.
Now, explain. It was at the Rogue One
Yes,
live reaction podcast.
indeed.
And
And you were in a bad mood because you didn't at first like it. I remember you were like, I don't think I like this film, and then you were talking over it, and you were like, maybe I do like this film.
did I not like it?
Yeah, your initial reaction was like, I don't know if I like it. I was there. I got banned.
Dude, I'm going to start recording some of these podcasts. I don't think I didn't like... I think my...
You were conflicted.
No, I think my gripe was that...
Conflict.
That all... Like, a few of the sweet Mendo lines were out. I think that's what I was coming to terms with. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, we didn't get the walk. I wanted to see him wet his cape in the water, and I didn't get to see it.
Needed more Mendo.
Oh, always need more Mendo.
That's true. You're not going to call the cops, are you?
You know, Mendo came around to my house and patted my cat.
I did know that.
Okay, I just want to get that out there. And then requested a second pat of the cat.
I think everybody knows that by now.
Mendo does have an addictive personality, so...
What was the reason you got... Was it Jin Erso is Ray's mum?
Yes.
And you like protested from the back of the room?
I was like... Nah, man, she's got to return. She's not dead. You didn't. I was joking though. I was just having a bit of a, I was having a little tickle.
You are a comedian.
I'm a ticklish boy.
Yeah, but
okay.
There's jokes and then there's jokes. Do you know what I
that's
mean?
right.
And let's just...
Yeah, because I was...
R.I.P. Jin Erso, that's all I'm trying to say.
Rest in peace, huh?
Although I think she was on my podcast last night.
She could have frozen her eggs.
Yeah. Yes.
She could have frozen her eggs.
Clone like Sigourney Weaver. The real Sigourney Weaver, not Ripley.
You say ludicrous things, but your voice is... you're so well spoken, I go... Yeah. It is like Sigourney Weaver. Can you say Sigourney Weaver one more time?
Sigourney Weaver.
Oh my God. Woo.
Sigourney Weaver. Okay, I'll stop.
Thelma, in all your years, have you ever heard such a well-spoken man? Okay, that seems like a direct dig at me, but thanks for nothing, lady. Thanks for nothing. All right, let's go back to the very start, and we'll start with you, Alice. But what was your first memory of Star Wars?
My first memory of Star Wars was watching it with my twin brother at his best friend Annie Jolliffe's house. So
sister. He has a twin sister.
Yes, I quite liked the fact that they were siblings, but I didn't like the fact that they'd smooched because I have a brother and
I think that's gross.
Yeah,
even if you don't have a brother.
Yeah. True.
Well, that's what I always... Because, like, some fans, they cling to this belief that it was all... George Lucas had it all planned out. And if he did...
Yeah,
not
I think
cool.
he did not have it planned
out.
I hope he didn't have it planned out.
Like the opening... If he did
Otherwise
have it...
it's Game of Thrones, and that's a different...
Wow, I think if it was all planned out like that, the opening theme would be played on a banjo.
I take that personally still.
I didn't... Oh, it all makes sense. All right, sorry. All right, so you're making out with your brother. What happened next?
No, Annie had all three of them, so we watched all three of the real Star Wars in a row in a marathon. So it was fantastic. And then after that, I got into the books, the Timothy Zahn books.
Nice,
yeah.
Nice. Because when you came around in LA and we did a tea with Alice, we had tea.
We had tea, my podcast, Tea with Alice.
And it was, I always...
You were dubious about the whole tea part of it.
I wanted coffee with Saunders. That's what I was after.
But coffee is just tea made out of beans, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you look at anything in the right way, it's tea. A bath.
Checkmate, atheists.
Oh, dude, so it's like
the ocean.
So a bath is like human tea.
Yeah.
Like the body is the tea bag.
Yep.
That's legit, actually.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Oh, that is deep and disgusting. That is a good combo. So what age were you when you watched? You got the whole. You got to do the whole trilogy in one day.
The whole trilogy. It would have been in primary school, probably about year 3 or 4.
You binged.
We binged. We watched them all back to back, and I remember enjoying the Ewoks very much at the time. I was right in the zone for the Ewoks.
I'm still in the zone.
Yeah, they're great,
Yeah.
and I liked how they were cute but also violent because that's how I was as a child. Sort of a combination of adorable and aggressive.
Nice. What about you, Ben? What was your first memory?
We had the Star Wars trilogy on VHS, which we recorded from the television, but it was New Zealand television because we lived in Wellington for a while, and so occasionally, just like old 90s New Zealand dads would be like, "Hey, get some bloody jam in there." But we
It's
always
one of
had-
my favourite Star Wars quotes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Hey, what's the? No, okay. But I remember our copy of A New Hope always had a bit. You know when Luke's getting geared up to go take on the Death Star, he goes, "Are you okay, R2?" And it always jumped, so it goes, "Are you okay, R2? R2?" And now when I watch it back on a proper copy, I'm like, he should say that twice.
I want the NZ remix.
Yeah, it was great. And I just smashed it. And then my mum was a auction house picker, basically. And so instead of getting toys from the supermarket or the store, we got toys from the auction house on the cheap. And she bought at auction really cheaply 2 massive boxes of like original kind of release Star Wars toys. And that was my toys. And they were just my toys for childhood. I, unbeknownst to me, was playing with probably what is now like thousands of dollars worth of
I did not know.
toys.
There's a taste to envy that is permeating the room. Like I can taste it on my tongue. Just everyone in the audience. Just, oh.
So I was that kid that kind of knew. My knowledge is obviously kind of like left because I did a lot of drugs in my 20s and but I knew all like the names of all the creatures and stuff like that as a kid, and it was just I was obnoxious. I loved Star Wars, and then I quickly got into like all the computer games. I was a big computer game star. If it had Star Wars on it as a computer game, I had to save up and get that motherfucker. I had to do it.
Did you have Pod Racer on N64?
I didn't have a 64. I just had a PC. I did get a port later on and played that, and it was worth it. It was worth the wait.
Were you a pod racer player?
Yeah, so I saved up all my money and I bought for my twin brother an N64 for our 15th birthday, and then he would invite all his friends over and they wouldn't let me play. So it was GoldenEye and Pod Racer and Perfect Dark.
Oh my god, that's the golden age of video games for me. GoldenEye. Oh
yeah,
my god.
GoldenEye. Oh yes. Oh, walk into a wall while people shoot you.
Yeah. I just like the red beams that you used to get to set those traps. That was when
So
one of your
good.
friends walked into one of them, it's like, oh yeah, that's the good stuff. But I could never get past the swamp level on the pod racer, and so I was just like, ugh.
You gave it up.
Yeah, hate the pod racing bit.
Well, it did have that annoying sort of Anakin voice in it, which was upsetting.
Oh, poor Jake.
Well, it was just the repeated, like, oh.
Alice, can I ask you a
Oops.
question?
Yes.
Are you an angel?
I'm not. I plead the fifth.
How do you rate that as far as pickup lines go?
Terrible. That would not, like, has he read Neil Strauss's The Game? Like, what is... It's just so,
It
gross.
worked.
Or if it was in the game to neg,
Yeah,
like you'd say, are you an angel?
because you don't look like it.
Yeah. Because where are your wings or something? I don't know.
He got a negger. There's negging in Star Wars.
The game goes so far beyond negging. You've got to read it still.
Han Solo is a big negger, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the original.
And what when you first watched it, what was the character that you who was your droid or your girl or your guy?
Oh gosh, I really liked Chewie. I really liked the Wookiee because he was so loyal and furry. I had a thing for all the furry ones, and I also liked the villains. I was just super into Darth Vader, Darth Maul. Like they were just so sinister, and the deep-voiced villains were my jam as a young person. Because I was brought up Buddhist, so I was very conflict averse. So the people who had just the courage of their convictions to stab someone in the back.
Oh, you're born for comedy. What about this then? If you like deep voice villains, what about this?
Are you an angel?
It's a bit hotter, yeah?
Marginally, yeah.
Okay,
Keep
all right.
working on it.
I am married, by the way, everyone. What about you, Ben? Who's your character?
Lando. Got to be Lando, man.
Are you excited for Lando's return?
I am cool. I'm trying to manage my expectations after sort of the media, reporting on all the troubles with the productions of Solo. But I am psyched to see Donald Glover as Lando.
Yeah, I think maybe the possibly most disappointing thing about Solo could be Donald Glover. No, just because that's the one thing that everyone goes, yeah, but Donald Glover's going to be the best.
Yeah,
like,
you're absolutely right.
Everyone
Yeah.
is like got 100% belief in him. And I think he will be awesome, which sort of falls into the trap.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the one thing that no one's ever questioned. It's just like, Donald Glover's going to be the best.
Yeah, I love Lando as a character, like this kind of guy who he is a scoundrel, and he's kind of had this checkered past. I feel like he's kind of been he's not afraid to be the villain when he needs to be. Like when he's in Jabba's palace, how long has he been there? That's what I was wondering. Like how long, and what has he seen and just been cool with, you know? Like he's probably seen some real messed up stuff in there, and he's been like, "I'm here for my buddy Han. I'm not going to put a stop to this."
Just waiting for Han to defrost, then we'll get out of here.
He sees a woman get like bloody fed to a rancor, and is like, "That's cool. This doesn't faze me. I'm gonna push it."
Say what you like about Jabba, he does support independent artists.
Say what you will. Say what you will. That is an interesting question of morality there. When do you, Lando has put the life of the frozen Han Solo above the life of the dancer Ula.
Yeah, but plus, I mean, how many people probably get killed in Jabba's palace on the reg, you know?
Yeah, there was a lot of bones down in that rancor.
Yeah, a huge amount of bones.
What about, I always found it was really funny how he's like in this disguise, but that at a moment's notice, he'll just pull down his mask and just go, "I'm Lando, guys." It's me! It's me!
The guy doing the things like, "I can clearly tell that it's a disguise, but that's fine, you know. That's okay. You can be his god."
But you do bring up an interesting thing.
I don't know why he's German. Just imagine he is.
Schultz had to get a job somewhere.
Yeah.
What was the job interview like? Like, how did Lando go in and get employment?
Now, one thing that I have to ask you is, what you're wearing a disguise? No. That's good for me.
What about background characters, Alice? Who do you like? You know, what sort of creatures or background lurkers?
I liked the modal nodes, speaking of jizz. The band in the Cantina, the genre of music they're playing is called jizz. That's what it's called in the future. And
No, a long time ago, buddy.
yeah, true.
Fake fan.
Fake fan.
Yeah.
In space, I guess that's what it's called. And I liked them because they were super into what they were doing.
Interesting thing that just occurred to me. So, the Cantina band, the modal nodes, we all know those guys, and their style of music is called jizz, and it is... It's like the day I don't find that funny.
Yeah, that means
end
you're
me,
dead.
End me.
If someone says jizz and you don't go, there's something wrong.
So this is my new theory that you've just, because it is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, that the person that invented the slang word for semen, jizz, named it after, they're like, "Oh, this is as good as that music. This is like jizz." And then it came around.
That is a great and entirely unnecessary theory.
Okay.
I'd like to see like a behind the music special on the modals. Like, we didn't know what we were doing at the time, but we were making jizz.
And loving it.
You just gotta feel it.
We weren't getting paid much in that cantina, but it was just for the love of jizz, Developing our own style.
That's right.
I could go on for ages.
And I could listen.
It's the notes you don't play. It's the jizz you don't do.
Bliss.
Absolute bliss. What about you? Who's your background lurkers?
I've always been a fan of. I think his name is E3PO, the one that just goes You know the copy of C-3PO in Bespin that C-3PO goes hello and he just goes fuck you. How rude. I'm like, yeah. He says ichuta.
Yeah, echuta. Yeah. Does anyone know the translation of that? Oh, it's Fake Fan Friday here.
Fake Fan Friday.
Interesting. It is. I always love my childhood emotions about stuff about the movie, and I was always just like, why are you being a dick to C-3PO? Like, he's just trying to be like, it's like when you see someone when you're a little kid and they look like they're into the same thing as you, and they just like shut you down, and you're just like, but like, when he saw a fellow droid, he maybe wanted to talk about protocol and how many languages he spoke, and it's shooter.
Well, he was E-3PO, so he was probably a later, more advanced model. And I was like, C, get away from me. Yuck.
Ooh. What about your favourite scene?
I think my favorite scene was the sand people. I liked the sand people. Like, I just liked the noise they made. I found it really pleasing. I don't know why. They were sort of mysterious. They had the bandages. I liked them.
Well, you know the one where he does go up and down.
Yeah.
And I don't want to break the magic, but it's just...
Then don't.
So Ben, what's your favourite scene? No, it's the one, he only does it once, and they just like rewind it.
That makes it better for me. Then it's much more like disco. It's much more like R2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You okay, R2?
Yeah.
What about you, Ben?
Tough. I like any scene with Charlotte Guinness in it in New Hope. Just in the start.
That's interesting because that's the worst part of Star Wars for Sir Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
Not a fan.
No.
Not a fan.
I love that. I just love watching. I think he's just so amazing to watch as an actor anyway. Like, he's sensational. And then probably when Han meets Vader. I love that scene when he's like, sit down, and he's like, and what are you going to do? What are you going to eat with them? Everyone just sits there, and he's just sitting there going, are you going to eat? No, I've got a mask on.
Well, that is one of the most, like, when you watch the films and you wonder what happens, like what was meant to happen.
Yeah. The door's closed, and then they just go, so, what do you like to do? I kill people. Okay,
What are your intentions with my daughter?
Yes, it's a meet the parents.
But yeah, I always, in my head, if they did have to sit down, then he'd just drink, like he'd just have a straw go through the grill, and that would be the only way you could consume.
And also, does Vader like sense the Force in Leia as well at this point because they're so close together, or is it still pretty undeveloped at that time? And does he know that she's his daughter?
Oh, no.
No.
No, because he only works out that he's got a son.
Towards the end.
I think in between Star Wars and Empire, he works out he's got a son.
Mm-hmm.
And he only works out he's got a daughter when he reads Luke's mind in Return of the
sister.
Jedi. Yes. But yeah, I would have... Like, what about the chef on Cloud City? Do you know what I mean? Lando's got some sweet chef. They've worked up this huge buffet. But I just think, like...
Is there any dietary requirements?
Yeah, like Darth Vader couldn't have actually thought they were all going to sit down...
Straw? I only have smoothies. I have a power shake in the morning.
But, yeah, I just feel bad for the chef because there was no way they were all going to sit down. Like, it was just a waste of his time. He worked all day. It's like preparing a big Christmas dinner and then going...
You don't know. Maybe that's the showdown room. Maybe that's just once they've gone out, then they get the next bunch of people in to sit briefly before this sumptuous meal, and then they have a showdown, and then they move out as well.
Okay, so you think like after that, like IG-88 had an issue with some Ugnaughts.
Yeah, exactly.
They sorted that out. Okay, that's very interesting. The showdown room.
Or do you reckon they skipped foreplay and went straight to torture?
I don't know about foreplay, buddy. It's I'm not sure what you get into.
You know what I mean? Like, because then
This is the
Han
80s.
is
They haven't
tortured.
invented foreplay yet.
Yeah, that's true.
It didn't even ask any questions.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Or they just went, and then Han was like, oh man, I was looking forward to a delicious meal, and now I'm being tortured.
Well, you know how the torture machine had the little sparks coming off?
Yeah.
As a youth, I wasn't sure if that was part of the torture or just the machine was like malfunctioning.
It's
touch and
unclear,
go.
yeah.
Either way,
Yeah, that little apparatus looks pretty ad hoc.
very, very nasty. What is it about the sound people scene that enchants you?
I just like the noise. I just enjoyed the sound that they made, and I wondered if that's how they sound all the time. If that's like how they say "I love you" or look at the beautiful butterfly.
He was actually saying hello.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they were just saying hi. How you doing?
It's definitely what they do when they want to say, "Look at my sweet stick."
Yes.
Yeah.
Which that's all they really do.
It's a very stick-based economy among the sand people.
And did you know, like the Banthas, that they were just like cosplaying elephants?
Really? I did not know that they were elephants.
Yeah.
That's
fun.
pretty good. I like that Sir Alec Guinness didn't like playing Star Wars because, Sir Patrick Stewart did not like Star Trek either. So there's something about Sirs and sci-fi that they just don't enjoy it, but they do a real good job.
Didn't he?
Yeah, he hated it for the first season.
Yeah, it took him actually quite a bit. Sorry, this is the wrong podcast to do this at. But he was dark on it and being all professional and Shakespearean. And then I think Brett Spiner started mucking around. He was like, oh, okay, maybe I've been a bit of a jerk this season. I'll lighten up next season. And then he started to love it.
Oh, that's good. All right. I had to just rethink my late 90s then. That was very upsetting. Very upsetting. What did you guys think of The Last Jedi?
I didn't like it, but not for reasons that are Star Wars. So I don't really have... So I didn't like it because of the way that it was written and structured, and the fact that nothing really had any consequences and nothing mattered. And we ended up pretty much at the same place that we started. Really. And now the only thing that I didn't like about it was that was Star Wars is that I didn't like the fact that Luke died, but that's only because I love Luke.
Yeah, well, why do you think it ended up in the same place? Given that, Snoke's dead, Luke Skywalker's dead.
Yeah, I mean, those big characters did, yeah, true. Though there was death there, but through that death, I didn't feel like any meaningful change had been made in the story. I felt that kind of we started with the sort of resistance being chased by the First Order and ended with the resistance a little bit smaller and then the First Order a little bit smaller, but still pretty much doing the same things to each other.
Interesting. Interesting. But there was the personal development of Poe and Finn.
I liked Poe's development. I didn't really connect with Finn's development. I thought that the relationship was a little bit more manufactured. I don't have as much of a problem with the casino scenes as a lot of people did. I thought it was necessary to have his arc. And I really, I still loved everything. The thing that sort of makes the film better for me and watchable was the play between Rey and Ben. So I really like their scenes. I love those scenes.
What about that throne room scene?
Oh, so good. Undeniable. You can't, even if you completely hated that film, you'd be like, yeah, but that throne room scene was pretty sick, huh?
Yeah. I have been told by someone that was sitting next to me that when the throne room scene kicked into gear, when they went back to back and you realised they were going to team up, that my head sort of went on a reverse 3D. My head was went into the screen. I just went forward and was just yeah. Because I just cling to, I love your original memories when you see something for the first time. And I remember just when they went back to back and it went into slow motion, which some people have an issue with, and it doesn't. I needed slow motion to get my shit together.
Sure.
But my enthusiasm just went. I was like, yes, let's see it, and it was just I was thrilled with that bit, which was good because admittedly after the Princess Leia going through space thing, I was just like, what? Whoa, okay. It was like,
yeah,
it did. Like I've said a few times, like it always seemed like while I was watching it, I was in a weird dream. Like I had this dream about Star Wars last night. Princess Leia just floated through space. It's very strange, but the Praetorians. Oh,
so good.
Love it. I didn't know how much in my life that I needed a sweet sabering to the face.
Yeah,
It
real
was-
good stuff.
It was just some dope sabering. What about you, Alice?
I was when I went and saw it, I saw it next to somebody who loathed it. So I sort of did that counterbalance thing of being like, no, it's really good. So I don't really know how I feel about it. There were all of the elements I liked, but I think I probably agree with Ben in that the structure was off for me a little.
Yeah.
Well, it does like sort of change that traditional Star Wars thing of, there's like a planet at the start, then there's a little bit of stuff in the middle, and then there's a thing at the end. Like it sort of it sort of messes with that pattern.
I think the thing that bothered me the most was the timing of things, that everything was urgent, but you didn't know quite how urgent, and then they had time to do things that they shouldn't have had time to do.
Things were urgent, and then all of a sudden they didn't matter at all.
Yeah, that you had
know what I
3
mean?
days to do a thing that...
Yeah, I think that was one of the mistakes was they mentioned time. Like I think they mention like 15 hours or 18 hours. There's a mention. Is it
There's
hours?
the fuel. They use time as fuel.
Yeah,
fuel
but
is
they
basically
actually say... Do they say... I haven't watched it again, but they say like 15 or 18 hours, which, you're using hours. It should be like...
Days.
No,
weeks,
it should be like...
light moments.
Yeah, space... Yeah, light moments. Yeah.
Space o'clock.
Yeah. So they do slip... But I just don't think they should have mentioned time. They should have just like jiggled around saying 18 hours, because when you look at like Empire Strikes Back, they never mention time, but it's, they don't have hyperdrive and they've got to get to Cloud City. So like, were they just like cruising in first gear for like a week or a month? And it's kind of, because it's just like a silly space film,
Sure.
it's best not to think about it and just go, they just got there, and then Luke got there.
And then all that goes out of the window kind of in Force Awakens. They kind of just get to places so quickly, and you see it, they're just like, yeah, all right, we're here. And that's it. And I don't really have a problem with that so much, you know what I mean? Like, they kind of just get places, and that's it. They Game of Thrones it 7 seasons.
Yeah. I always found in Force Awakens, like, how they see the planets blow up from the other planet.
Yeah.
It's like,
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But visually, it was quite stunning for them all to watch
It was
it.
beautiful to look at. Yeah, I really like that. And I like all of the characters. It didn't turn me off the franchise, so that's good.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, people are so angry, and it's like, it's ruined my childhood. And it's like, no,
You
dog.
ruined your childhood.
Yeah, it's still there. They're not like going back in time
It's
and
made you
ruining it.
confused about time itself.
Yeah.
That's not how things work.
And it's like, if something has given you like so much goodness, like just cut it some slack.
Yeah.
Like finding out that Rolf Harris is a pedophile ruins your childhood. Luke being morally ambiguous after being a whiny brat in the first couple doesn't ruin your childhood.
Yeah, I also think that like people should just like chill, because when there's like another film, because I think like when they announced more films and they came out, like people were mellower on the prequels, because previously the prequels were half our Star Wars, and if you were disappointed by them, you're like, oh, you wasted half my Star Wars on stuff that I wasn't really into. But I sort of feel like, definitely for me now, that there's so many more films. Now it's like a third of Star Wars, and pretty soon it's going to be
There are going to be so many films.
an eighth of Star Wars.
Disney will make Star Wars until we don't like it anymore. Until no one watches them anymore, which is never going to happen. They're just going to make Star Wars.
Well, according to
forever.
my Twitter feed, that was last month.
I
So.
mean, yeah. I have to admit that when I came out, I think I was just disappointed. But I remember just sort of sitting there and going, I don't think I liked that movie. Oh. And just kind of having to come to terms with the fact that I didn't like Star Wars. And just like, and you're like, yeah, but people didn't like the prequels. But I didn't mind the prequels.
I quite liked the
I
prequels.
liked
I
that
mean, Darth Maul.
I mean, they were boring at times, but come on. But this one, when I first, my first reaction was like, I really don't like this film. But I appreciated what it was trying to do, but ultimately the structure and the fact that it seems unfocused and it was just kind of all over the shops and just kind of like pulls the rug out from under you so many times that it doesn't even matter anymore.
How do you mean it pulls the rug out?
Well, like, a prime example is at first I'm like, great, this is like a cool, almost introspective story that I haven't seen in Star Wars before with the First Order following the Resistance with that kind of very slow burn. I was like, this is cool. I haven't seen, I wasn't expecting this. And then all of a sudden they go, we're just going to leave? Like, Finn just gets on a shuttle and leaves, and he's allowed to leave, and it's totally fine. And then he goes off on a planet. I'm like, but that then takes away all the tension that we had developed in the first place of the following and the pursuit. And then they do it again by completely reneging and making Finn, because they wanted to do like get the codes, isn't that right? Yeah. And then while they're away, other people make the decision that we're not going to get the codes. So we're still following this mission when this mission doesn't even matter anymore because that's not a part of the plan to get us out. So it's like, kind of just like, you're like, then why are we doing this? Why are we here? I wanted to watch what happened. You know, was there a traitor on board? You know, how do they know? And instead, they just kind of like, oh no, we can track you through hyperspace. You're like, oh, okay, that's just something you made up. That's cool.
It's all something they made up.
I know. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it was just that consistent kind of like, but, oh my god. Okay. You know, that's...
It's weird because one of my favorite bits about it, or one of the bits I appreciated was, you know, when they're going in with the code breaker and they're going through the door. And I was sort of like, I remember like watching it first time, like going, oh, this is just working out too well. And then when they got busted, I was like, thank you. Like I was sort of happy it didn't work out because it just seemed like, oh, these plans, they always like come through.
Yeah.
And I sort of liked the flip of, oh, for once it didn't.
But they got caught, like, they got double-crossed by Benicio del Toro and everything like that. And ultimately, that mission was already null and void, you know, because the Resistance had already come up with another plan. So it's like...
But it was a rogue plan.
Sure.
Rogue 2.
Rogue 2. The Roganing.
The Return of Jyn Erso.
Yes! Finally!
What, in episode 9, do you think, like, how do you think Kylo Ren ends up? Do you think he, like, there's, like, redeemed and he's chilling, redeemed and dead, or still bad, gets away, or still bad, dead?
Look, I don't know. I'd like to see a Darth Vader kind of arc for him, but equally, he's very annoying. You know, he is just a little bit, everything's bad for me.
Have you seen him without a t-shirt on, though?
He's not my jam. As far as villains go, I want horns, I want fucking masks, I want the whole lot, man. I want the whole package. I want a cape. Where's the cape?
You're going to love hell.
I don't believe in hell. Buddhist, woo!
So you think a redeeming storyline?
I mean, I like a redemption storyline generally, and I think they'll probably play out that tension a little bit further. I don't know. I don't have expectations about it. I'd like to see him redeemed, but if he doesn't get redeemed, I hope he gets his just desserts, the wanker.
Yeah. I think that they did a really good job at being like, this is one thing that they did do well. They're like, oh, you think he's going to redeem? No, he's an asshole. And he's, at this point, you're like, nah, not redeemable. I would love to see him kind of like have a moment of clarity at what he's done and then die, or at least fall upon his sword. Like, I don't want to see him kind of any kind of like, I'm good now. I think he's done.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think he can be
No.
a goodie, as it were. Like after you've killed Han Solo, you can't come back from that. But
No, you're dead to me.
Yeah,
I want his family dead. They're dead.
I would like, because I don't want him to be redeemed just because, like, I've seen that in Return of the Jedi. So I think it'd be really cool if he worked out, because you know how he was like in The Force Awakens, he was like, speak to me again, grandfather. Tell me about the power, whatever that he was talking about. But I'd love for him to, it seems like he doesn't know that in the end Anakin Skywalker came back and, like, turned good. Like, I think it'd be cool if, you know, if Hayden Christensen or Anakin Skywalker came back and, like, actually said to him, oh, no, this is whack, man.
Yeah.
Like, and he just, like, he died sort of knowing, like, still evil, but knowing it was all, like, folly. And he
It
was,
was all
like,
a stitch-up.
frustrated and is like, oh,
Dying knowing how much of a failure he is.
yes.
Yeah.
That I think that would be really sick, rather than do the whole, like, redemption just because it's like a sort of repeat. But yeah, the falling on the sword thing's interesting because it'd be funny if he, like, just did, like, the side guard and like, oh, that's not enough.
Oh, I did not mean to do
and
this.
then does straighting. Oh, that hits the spot.
That's it.
Right through Solo style.
Yeah. I want to see him dead.
And it's such a weird. The ending of The Last Jedi is so weird because it sort of leaves you with nothing to work. Like, you know, the end of The Force Awakens,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, what happens, you know, when he hands the lightsaber, or she hands the lightsaber over, and you had sort of these things, like there was like motion in action, and I guess that might have changed because when they announced that it was going to start straight after, like, that second, you could sort of, like, play it forward. But it's quite a different thing now for fans because, you know, you've got 2 years to wait and you've got no idea, like, does it start in 3 years? Does it start in like 10 years? If it starts the same week, I'd, like, not like that at all. Because it's like...
They've got a lot of rebuilding to do. They've
Yeah.
kind of cleared
Yeah,
the
I'd like-
decks almost entirely. There's like 3 people left. You know, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and just
Watch
like...
them bang and try to repopulate.
Okay, there's an upside.
I would watch that.
But, you know, just to, like, rebuild her lightsaber and all that stuff, like, I think it'd be more fun or more interesting if things had time to develop. And if they did do it straight after, it'd be so weird that, like, over 6 years or whatever, that, like, us, like, watch these films and it's like, yeah, that was a week. Like, we watched a week of space adventure. Like, I want to see years of space adventure.
Yeah, something a bit epic. I mean, Abrams is back, which is, I don't know how to feel about it. I think it's going to be. I think Abrams got his work cut out for him because remember when Awakens first came out, it was like, oh, I got some plans, you know, like, I got plans. I'm JJ Abrams, and then Ryan came in and goes, hold my beer. Oh, you got plans, huh?
Yeah, I don't know about that because it's like JJ, I don't know, like, he's sort of, like, kind of known for, like, setting things up and then going, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the irony. It's like, yeah, finish it up now, buddy.
Yeah.
You've got your truckload of cash, but let's see the end.
Yeah,
Let's see
I'm
what
really
happens.
curious. Because I have absolutely no idea. I mean, that's what. Yeah, no one has any theories. Everyone is as equally as in the dark of what could happen next. You know.
I'm always interested with comedians about, like, Star Wars jokes. Like, when I started doing stand-up, I just couldn't come up with any Star Wars material because I'd consumed, like, I'd watched all, like, Robot Chicken and all that, and I was sort of just like, I think I think it's all done. But, you know, it's... and you had a bit that I just adored that was amazing.
Yeah, whenever I was on at Spleen and you were there, I'd have to do it. I feel obliged to do it.
Yeah, it's like, can I have a gig? Are you going to do the wink wink?
Yes, I'll do it. And so I have a bit where I'm like, because I do impressions, and I've got a Michael Caine impression, but everyone's got a Michael Caine impression, so I put a little spin on it. So this is Michael Caine as Jabba the Hutt. So, which is so. No chopper, no butter.
I'd honestly forgotten how good it was.
Wookie Chewbacca. No chopper wonka. It killed you, my yes. Oh, cheddar magic. A bow shooter. And then he gets dragged and he explodes.
I'm sorry. I'm delighted.
Yeah.
What have you else? Have you busted out any
I
Star
don't think
Wars?
I can top that, to be honest. I don't think anything can top that. That's
No.
the best thing I've ever seen. So I have a little bit about the Me Too movement and how whether you believe the person depends on how much you like them. So I talk about, you know, you don't want to believe something bad or you don't want to believe something good. So I have the, look, I'm your father. No, like that's normally good news. And then about Stephen Hawking and the fact that when I found out that Stephen Hawking had cheated on his wife, I was like, maybe we should all be cheating on our wives.
I didn't know that Stephen Hawking cheated on his wife.
Yeah, he did. It's an achievement. He's the greatest mind of our generation. Maybe I'm missing something. Like this is a thing. Other than that, I haven't had a huge amount of Star Wars material. But
Yeah, I'm stuck on that Stephen Hawking cheating thing. That is okay, interesting. Very interesting.
yeah, and the other bit was the beginning of my last show, Empire, which I talked about how much I liked villains, and I talked a bit about Darth Vader. But
I thought that show was just all about AT-ATs.
no, I'm afraid not. But it was about Disney villains and Darth Vader, who is now a Disney villain, I guess, retrospectively.
True that.
How do you feel about Piet? You like Piet?
Yeah.
Admiral Piet? I like Admiral Piet. He's just doing his job, you know? It'd be tough.
Well, that was like one of the dudes I loved in The Last Jedi. I think his name's Cassidy, and he's like the grumpy dude that is on the Dreadnought. He's like, we should have launched fighters 5 minutes ago. Like, he's just like middle management.
I love those guys.
Yeah, like he's so pissed that... Because the story is that Hux guy, like, his dad was like a super important Empire person, and I think he ended up killing him. And so he's sort of like been shot up. And then you've got this guy Cassidy who's, he's like a lifelong, he's in the Imperial Navy and he knows his stuff. And he's got this young buck that's been promoted for all the wrong reasons. And he's just sort of like, it's almost like he's happy to die just to prove Hux wrong.
Yeah. I love like the sort of inner workings of just the Empire and things like that. Like that sort of fascinates me, this kind of evil or... Yes, we know we're evil. Like I've been playing through Battlefront 2 campaign, which has like you play as a Special Forces stormtrooper, just as kind of when the second Death Star explodes, like you're on the moon of Endor and you see the it pop, and it's kind of like humanizes kind of these soldiers in the Empire, and it's really fascinating, and like the admirals in it and.
It's one of the things I really liked about the new Timothy Zahn book, Thrawn, because he was I was always a big fan of him, even when he was the villain, and the new book sort of puts him at the center of that, because he's good at his job, and he's sort of evil, but he's more kind of Sun Tzu, Machiavelli, like practical evil rather than.
Yeah, because it's interesting when like the rebels, like that name and a rebellion and stuff, when you hear it on the news. Like around like international issues, like quite often they're painted like as the bad guy, and the man is the good guy, the status quo, and so it's an interesting flip that, you know, people in the Empire, and there's sort of like, there's this movie, there's this book called Lost Stars, which sort of goes into it about, you know, there's a girl in the Empire and she just thinks she's, like, she sort of believes the hype that she's bringing order to the galaxy, and, you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
Same with Iden in Battlefront 2. She's kind of like this career military kind of soldier and just believes that she's bringing order to the universe, you know, to the galaxy, sorry. And it's really, it's like it's cool. They're just people.
If we could just get together and just talk it out.
Just talk it out. And that's what happens. She ends up going to go, and then she does. Spoiler alert.
I mean, this is the problem. They can't solve it all with a high five because so many of them are missing a hand.
Yeah.
Well, that's like Krennic in Rogue One. He should have made like the discussion star. Do you know what I mean? Where people can come together on the space station, just talk it out.
The greatest weapon the galaxy has ever known. Communication.
We do have the mic there for audience questions. If anyone wants to jump up and get in on the conversation.
Oh.
Hello.
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 Hi.
Hey, Josh.
How you doing?
Introduce yourself.
I'm Josh from Melbourne.
Hi, Josh.
How you
Hello,
doing?
Josh from Melbourne.
This is actually probably a Steele-specific question, but you can all chip in. You said last year that you had the perfect question for Mark Hamill, and sadly you didn't get to ask him that question. Has that changed in a post-Last Jedi world?
Yeah, you've brought up a really dark memory, Josh. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. So I had an opportunity to interview the cast of The Last Jedi at Star Wars Celebration, and of course the person I most wanted to talk to was my childhood hero and my adulthood hero, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. And as it happened, he talked to everyone else for too long.
Brutal.
And then by the time he got to me, like, the time was up. And I'm trying to work out the best way to release this footage, but it is on camera that I'm there. You can see me, like, getting pumped up that, like, it's finally going to happen. Like, I couldn't, like I've got to do a lot of fun stuff and stuff that, you know, like, is, like, I wouldn't imagine I ever got to do. But the fact that I was going to get to talk to Mark Hamill was, like,
The pinnacle.
this is it. Like, 6-year-old me is done. Like, me is done. I can't believe it. So you can see me just, like, going, and I'm, like, you know, full, like, mum spaghetti, like, you know, 8 Mile, rubbing my hands. And I've got this question. And the Disney person said, okay, you get one, you know, he's got time to do one question, just get it in. And I was like, yep, got the question. It's all good. And he's walking towards me. I'm getting set. And he just keeps on walking.
Oh.
With a, like, a minder. Like, he doesn't know, like, he doesn't even know that I'm there.
Yeah, he's not being rude.
Yeah,
He's
yeah. Or that's what that's the narrative in my mind, right? And what makes it worse is one of the people that he talked to for too long, I'm now really good friends with, and I only realised later on that she was the person that ruined my childhood hopes and dreams.
Brutal.
And now
So
you already like
you'll
her,
have
so
another
you can't hate her.
chance.
You'll have another chance.
I've seen that footage. I'm privy to that footage, and it's like the Ralph Wiggum. You can see the moment where the heart breaks.
Yeah,
That's
so
good.
I forgot, you have got the footage.
Yeah,
And
I won't spoil it, but I've set it to some amusing sound effects and songs as well.
yeah, there's... you don't have to send me so many different versions of it either. Just chill out. But there is one particularly good one where you do watch Ralph Wiggum's Heartbreak, and I'm Ralph, and then it freezes, and it's like... It's... If it wasn't me, it would be the funniest clip of all time. But my question was, and you got to think this is before The Last Jedi came out, was that that Luke Skywalker in A New Hope taught us that you can be more than you're meant to be. And in Empire Strikes Back, it's like, always look after your friends. That's the message. And then the lesson in Return of the Jedi is about forgiveness and stuff like that. And I wanted to know what the lesson was that Luke Skywalker was going to teach me in The Last Jedi. And what I learned was disappointment is a big part of show business. That was the lesson. But so thanks for ripping open that wound, Josh. That's great form. Great form. I hope whatever football team you go for loses every game this year. Hello, Darren. How are you?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Darren.
Thank you for coming out. I've got a question regarding The Last Jedi that's been bothering me, and I want to try and work it out with you guys. When Luke comes back and sees Ben, outside the cave there and starts fighting, I was trying to work out, has that sort of thing happened before? So, for instance, has one of the other Force people been able to send themselves across the galaxy in such a way? So, for instance, would that have happened with Snoke when he came onto the Battlestar, or when he in The Force Awakens? Was that the same sort of, I don't know, whatever you call it, magic or whatever it is, or has it been done other places?
I think in The Force Awakens it's definitely a hologram. But I think there's one, like in Rebels, like Yoda does it to Ezra or something like that. And Yoda looks like a Kenner action figure, which is weird. Which is an extra Force power to beam yourself and then make yourself look like a toy from the 80s, which is a pretty sweet trick. But I think it's something that we didn't know that could be done. But Kylo Ren mentions, like he asks Rey if
she's doing it, because he says that kind of power would rip you apart.
Yeah, so it's obviously, like, it's in the book somewhere, but we hadn't had it done yet. And I sort of think, people now don't really you don't really think about it, but when Luke is in the Wampa Cave and he's, like, glued upside down and he gets the lightsaber into his hand, like, that's the first time that anyone watching Star Wars knows that you've got, like, sweet magic powers. Like, there's no, like, Force grabbing or anything in Star Wars. So it's sort of, like, we judge things now with a different lens because we've had so long to watch those films and we just accept it all. But, like, you've got Kylo Ren's, like, the blaster, like, holding that up, and like maybe I think like the worst Force power they've ever introduced, because it's sort of like, why didn't you do this every time, is the speed run at the start of the Phantom Menace. It's like, speed run everywhere, man. Like, get it done.
Yeah, it's space magic, they can, and in the games they always introduce different things and whatnot, so I feel like KOTOR and KOTOR 2 always introduced some pretty crazy things that's Knights of the Old Republic, which was a game, which is really good.
I absolutely have to go.
You have to go. Alice has to go judge the English Podcast
the
Awards.
British Podcasting Awards, yes. I was meant to be doing it at 3, so...
the winner nominated is Chipsies.
I've got 14 missed Skype calls, so I need to go.
Nice. You can just like
take them.
You just do it from here.
Start judging topical news podcasts.
Yeah, that's what you should be doing. It's like, I'm judging this on another podcast. That's how meta it is.
Podcast Inception. That is.
Well, thanks for coming.
Thank
Give
you
Alice
so
a
much
big
for
round of
having
applause,
me.
everyone.
You guys are lovely. Thank you.
Where can the good people of the Melbourne International Comedy Festival see your show, and then the people on the internet can listen to your tea chats?
All right, so I have a podcast. It's called Tea with Alice. It is on the internet. I have tea with people and talk about difficult ideas. I'm doing a show called Ethos, which is a double act with a robot at the Chinese Museum at 7:15 every night. And I'm also doing my trilogy, the last 3 one-hour shows in one 3-hour show on the 21st of April, and it's going to be a disaster. So come along and watch that. Otherwise, Google me.
Well, the big worry is that someone that loves your trilogy sees your new show and it ruins their childhood.
Yeah. Come along, let me ruin your childhood. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to run now. Bye.
Cheers, Alice! Oh, no, my pleasure. And I have to say, for your show plug, you had me at Robot. So that's good. Anything else, Darren?
No, that's it, thanks.
Okay, nice. Anyone else with a question?
Come on down.
Go for it, Catherine. Catherine's the next questioner, and she's always at all the live podcasts, which I really appreciate. And this week, I got to meet her mum. And she's definitely not adopted. I can tell you that much. So, yes, the blood runs thick.
Yes, the Neen family all look alike. We're somewhat scary.
And sound alike.
Yes.
And are as charming, to your credit.
Mum was very charmed by you, by the way. Thought you were a lovely chap.
It's going on the fly next year.
A lovely chap. That's the title of your new show.
What do you got, Catherine?
So they've announced Rian Johnson's got a new trilogy to make. The Game of Thrones people are making something. Jon Favreau's making something. Is it a bit strange to you that they haven't really concreted down what they are making? They haven't announced what the next anthology movie is, or is there any speculation? But yeah, that it's just they're making something.
Yeah, I think it is weird, and I think in old school Lucasfilm, like they wouldn't have done that. But I think all these announcements, they normally announce them at like Disney shareholders meetings. So I think it's just like the cut and dry of it is invest more money, we're making more stuff. Don't worry about, like, do you know what I mean? Like finding out what it is, that's like stuff that we want to know. But those announcements are more just kind of like stock market announcements to say we're generating more content.
It's all business, no pleasure.
Yeah. Well, hey, I hear being rich is super pleasurable, but...
Hey, more money, more problems, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I think, like, when you look at how they do announce it, I think they're sort of... They don't want to announce what it is, but they're just forced to announce that there's something just purely from a business perspective, which is sort of... I don't know, it's just how it, like, that's just how it is. So I know it's weird, but it's just what it is. But the other thing is we get to double dip with excitement because we know they're going to do it and what the format is, and then later on we get to find out, what it's actually going to be about. How do you feel about that, Catherine?
Yeah, it's good. I just think it's strange that they had announced the Boba Fett movie that I was never fully into, but they had said, yeah, Boba Fett. And then that got canned, and they haven't said what they were making afterwards, because they had said they're making 3 anthology movies. And we've got 2 of them. What's the third?
Yeah, but you have to give them a leeway, because when they announced the Boba Fett thing, they didn't know that Josh Trank was going to...
lose his mind.
Yeah, and make the set of... what
like
is it?
The alleyway?
Yeah, the Fantastic Four set did apparently smell like the alleyway upstairs, and he was to be blamed. So
brutal.
You got to cut him some slack on that one, or cut them some slack. Thanks very much, Catherine. Now, Ben, thanks so much for coming on the show.
I've had a really good time. Has the ban been lifted, do you think? Maybe?
Oh, mate, it's going to be hard to podcast again without you.
Yes!
But I will try tomorrow, so there you go.
Try to ban me tomorrow.
You are banned tomorrow. Banned tomorrow. We've got all these, as Catherine said, we've got all these shows, and we've got like Favreau's doing a TV show. It's going to be on the Disney streaming thing. You got the Game of Thrones guys doing a series of films.
Okay.
And then you've got Rian Johnson doing a trilogy of films.
Yeah.
You're not down with Rian Johnson now,
I'm not down with Rian Johnson.
I think you'll like it more because it's not... I think like being able to make stuff without the preconceived
Sure.
Like all these new characters, you're not like, they're not going to ruin your childhood.
Yeah, I am excited about having what is basically an expanded universe in film. Like, I'm excited for that. I'm excited, it's more Star Wars.
But what would be the type of story that if you got to nominate something, what would you like to see?
Oh, that is a really tough question. I don't know.
Ah, so you're super opinionated until now, huh?
There's just so much, I don't know. I would love to see. I'm a big fan of the Knights of the Old Republic, that kind of universe. I would love to see some Knights of the Old Republic stuff going on.
Nice.
Like that stuff. Like whether it's the comics of Knights of the Old Republic where you've got like Sith Lords running around in bug organic ships, or like our BioWare style games of Knights of the Old Republic where it's kind of like, I mean, that Revan story is sensational, and the whole story of, I mean, they kind of borrowed from Knights of the Old Republic 2 in The Last Jedi a little bit, just elements of the notions of the Force. I would love to see what happened before, because I mean, this galaxy is so old, and they've had hyperspace travel for so long. I'd love to go back like thousands of years before this sort of stuff happened, so it allows us to start afresh, and also to start with a completely kind of experimental and new art design as well.
Yeah, like same universe, but like a medieval twist and something. That'd be really cool. And just a blank. I'm up for blank slate.
Yeah, me too.
Just do that.
And I guess that's what is interesting about that Rian Johnson trilogy.
Yeah,
this sort of blank slate.
Thanks so much for coming down, man.
No worries.
It's always a fun time to chat with you about whatever. And now I've recorded your Michael Caine bit, so I can just listen to it back in LA.
There you go. Yeah.
Whenever I need to pick me up.
And also, I've got a little like panel show that I do on the YouTube's called Gamey Game, where we talk about games. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, and thank you guys for coming down. And may that force be with you! Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the show, give a little thumbs up or a comment. I think that's how it works. Bumps us up the rankings, all that good stuff. We've got 2 more live episodes from the Melbourne International Comedy Festival to upload in the next month, so hit subscribe and get that. And we'll be improving our camera equipment in preparation for our live episode at the Scum and Villainy Cantina on May 26th. Where we will be reacting to the Solo film. Until then, there's links. You can hit our Ben Mendelsohn interview, all our podcasts, and other live reactions by just hitting all these buttons here. Hit them all. They're amazing. They're just floating next to me. What an age. May that force be with you.